Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the show. Today we are chopping it up with Camo Lionheart Part 2. Cam just finished his breathwork course and just got back from Guatemala, so we're going to talk about his experiences with both of those, as well as some of the plant medicines that have helped us on our personal journeys. So, love Camo, love talking with him, and I hope you get something from the conversation. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the show. I am so happy to bring back one of my homies, my brother, my spiritual brother, my just life brother, fucking Camo Lionheart, man. Fucking so excited to have you back, dude. Rawr. And I know this is the so I've only been doing this podcast for, let's see, there's 17 episodes out now, so it's not been that long. And Camo was the very first guest that I have on, and so I was like, man, why am I bringing back another guest? You might be asking that the same thing. Well, here's your answer. Cam has been doing a breathwork course for the past 8 months, right? 9 months, almost a year or so.
9 months now, yeah.
And it just finally coalesced in Guatemala. And you had your final ceremonies and the finishing of your breathwork seminar or workshops and things that you've been working on, which I've been so grateful to be a part of on the sidelines, watching you grow with all this and being experiential through some of the, you're practicing a lot of this, some of this stuff on myself, Monica, your friends and stuff around us. And so it's been so beautiful to watch you grow with the knowledge you've been gaining. And now to see the confidence that you have with all of that knowledge and all of that experience and just what you're going to do with it is so beautiful and inspiring to me, that I thought we would just chat about that for a while, man. Like what your breathwork journey was like, and the coursework that you did, and what you really got out of it.
Oh,
yeah,
brother. Thank you for that intro, and thank you for having me back. Always an honor just to be able to sit and talk with you.
I know.
Whether it's like brainstorming earlier
right?
for our beautiful workshops and men's circles and different things coming up, collaborations and co-creations, to just brotherhood chatting. And then this is really exciting because everybody else gets to hear it.
Right.
And,
yeah.
I love that layer of vulnerability and also connection that this has begun to create between me and so many of the community listening, as well as me and listening to other people and being like, oh, hey, oh my God, your podcast with Adam was amazing. I'm so lit and inspired to do this today, or
Awesome.
create this offering, or
Well, that's one of the purposes we do this. I wanted to, I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by who I consider to be amazing people with really cool esoteric kind of knowledge. And I thought that, be a great way to share it by throwing the podcast out there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that it's working.
It's working. I love that.
Oh, man.
It's working.
Yes,
It's working.
Yes. Now I just got to find ways to make money at it. But, I remember when COVID first started, and you were talking about doing this breath work. And I think you might have been talking about it before that started, and weighing your options, whether this was the right thing for you to do. And I was so excited when you finally pulled the trigger and was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Don't care what it costs. It's investment in me and my knowledge, my future, my practice. And so, again, being a recipient of some of that practice that you've been able to share with me, and looking forward to much more, because I'm sure your knowledge base is farther than what I've been able to experience so far. What led you to this actual program that you ended up going with?
Dark Nights of the Soul, bro.
Yeah. That's not a bad.
I feel like it was coalescing to breath. My work that I needed to do for myself, and also something that I was bringing to the public in different yoga classes, while public yoga classes were happening regularly,
able to be there,
40 classes a week and all of that at different studios.
Right.
I was really guiding breath, so I would guide a level 2 class at B1 yoga here in Kirkland, and be like, oh, we're going to drop into a pranayama right now. And that would be one of the things that took it from just not to
A
take away
traditional
from
class.
it, but like, oh, we're gonna do a vinyasa flow, and that's gonna be the main focus, and you're gonna ujjayi breath if you want to, and to going into, oh, we're gonna do this specific breath. We're gonna bring breath of fire in because I want you to sweat today, and I want you to be warm because we're gonna go into grasshopper pose
Right.
or, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Intentional breath. And prior to, like we're all carrying different wounds, different stories, different mistaken beliefs, which I think I talked about on our first show, that we're not always aware of.
Right.
We might see the effects of it on our life. Say I'm triggered and now I'm angry,
Right.
and I'm taking that anger out on somebody rather than seeing where it came from. So in that, having a very specific dark night of the soul last year about the time of COVID after a beautiful vacation, where my partnership at the time transformed into something different, and being in a place where I felt alone and seeking more tools to get rid of that feeling. Where I, at that point in my life, had learned that alcohol's not going to fix it.
Right.
Substances aren't going to help it. Turns out a loving relationship isn't also not going to fix it.
Right.
Okay, what do I need to do to like be okay and be, in essence, a whole person on my own? So that's where I started all of these processes, and breath work was one of the strongest practices that I had ever experienced, and I had only done 2, maybe 3 actual breathwork sessions where we use the conscious connected breath.
Okay.
And really activating. And so when I saw online that the school I went to was offering free breathworks, it's called Alchemy of Breath, and they do Breathe the Worlds every Sunday. I have also a lot of friends who do free breathworks on Sundays, but so yeah, reach out to me if you're called to do any of that work. But I decided to try them out. And this was during COVID, on my own, in my little healing space at my house, and having huge reactions. Not reactions, huge transformations, for lack of a better word. Like things are coming up and I get to work with them now.
Right.
And that led me to wanting to do a course in it and being called to the Alchemy of Breath course based on the length of time, the amount of time, and the amount of knowledge that was being offered. So it was an 8-month course.
Right.
Eventually an in-person, as they call them, breath camps happen. And they do them online as well right now, just based on the climate of the world,
Right.
and travel, etc. But yeah, so that was really a calling for me to dive into myself so that I could be a greater container.
Right.
Not only for my own emotional intelligence to navigate, why do I feel lonely and then want to do these things? Why do I get angry so then I shrink? I want to disappear, and I don't have any ground to stand on that is actually my own.
Right.
And so really gaining that, as you said earlier, the confidence in myself and like the feeling, the resource feeling of like, I am whole and connected spirit in a body. And I actually don't need anybody else. Doesn't mean I don't want anybody else in my life.
Yeah.
But that was really the intention and the why for my own personal self, and then for my practices and sharing these things is like, oh, now I have created a deeper vessel for me to hold space for you in this work, and or you listening to go into whatever needs to come up for you. And a big lesson in the training was like, what wants to come up will come up, and it'll show itself in one way or another. And so having the tools ahead of time to go, oh, I know that something might come up. Let me have the emotional intelligence and the capacity to step back, know that I am a whole, complete person, recognize that my emotions are mine and not anybody else's. They're not created by anybody else, no matter what they do. And now I'm able to function and communicate in a way that's less aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important to have some of the therapeutic dialogue around some of the stuff that potentially could come up before it all starts to come up. I think that's where a lot of times we see danger in, and I quote unquote danger in some of the holistic healing, is that we see these practices that have massive effects and are very, very beautiful that are used, but we might take for granted that just because it's quote unquote breath work, that it might not be that anybody can do it and you don't need the guidance in it. But there's still guidance that should be had to doing some of that, the holotropic breath work and some of the somatic responses that we have in our bodies, just so you can frame the context around what to do, and also what to do when things start to come up, because we bury shit for a reason. And if you're not ready for that thing that happened to you 40 fucking years ago to come back up and deal with that in a healthy way, then, build that side of it up too, to be ready to deal with the stuff, because we got to deal with it. But sometimes when we tear that wound open, if we're not ready to process what's underneath that could be more dangerous than just leaving it there.
Yeah.
And
that gets me back to, again, like, what wants to come up will come up.
Right.
And innately, that means that you are ready for it, but you on your own might not be ready for it.
Yeah.
That's where we have our mentors and dear friends like you are for me.
And you for me.
That means we have our facilitator, our healer, our therapist,
Right.
all the community that we as humans can lean on if we choose to.
Right.
And so, asking for the help is the first step. I have a client today who is coming in, and she pretty much started all of the work without even seeing me yet.
Okay.
But it was initiated by her reaching out and her going, oh, I really want to do this work. Made the commitment, and has already started it before she even came and saw me.
Right.
And that's the beauty of, like, oh, I'm reaching out. I'm saying, hey, I need help with this. Or, one of the beautiful parts about breathwork that I love is that I can feel so connected to something greater than me after a 30-minute, 60-minute breath work. It's like for a decent amount of time, and I'm just lit and connected. And so, oh, I'm feeling disconnected. This is my why for coming to a yoga class, coming to Camo for breath work. Reiki's calling me right now. Or, I actually am dealing with some real things. Maybe talk therapy would be exactly what I need.
Right.
I don't want to, take away anything from any of the modalities, right?
Yeah.
So, you're ready for everything that's coming to your life and coming up for you.
Right.
It's just a matter of, do you have the skills yet to process it?
Yeah.
And that's, up to seeking and asking.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it could be, that's part of the work itself, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's going to come up. It's ready to be dealt with. Are you prepared to reach out to find your ways to soften this as you find your way to heal through it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
And so through this 8-month training, I really got to experience a really beautiful full circle.
Yeah.
The direct example being when my previous partner left me, or left the house that we were living, as we're still close and co-collaborating on different projects.
Definitely.
But when she left the house that we were living in, she sent me a song. And in that moment, I felt so alone, so abandoned, so wounded, like a little baby, that I was on my kitchen floor listening to that song on repeat, bawling, just ugly crying all over the place.
Right. Yeah.
And a beautiful experience to like release so much in that way. But looking back, it was, because I felt whole because somebody else was a part of my life,
Right.
rather than feeling whole and I get to enjoy somebody else in my life, right?
Yeah.
And so go through the summer, then breathwork training started in September, and lots of breathing at least once a week, plus guiding breathworks for other friends like you, friends in the same program that I was in, receiving breathwork, because we all needed to have a certain amount of one-on-ones as well as a certain amount of public breathworks, or like not necessarily in person, like because of the world right now.
Right.
And that went on for 8 months. A lot of books so we read some beautiful books. I think Conscious Loving by Gay Hendricks was one of the most profound, around co-commitments that we make not only with others but to ourselves, or to oneself. Some books about trauma and just like how it works, rather than like, this is exactly how you're going to heal it. But definitely some art to navigating, like deepen my understanding of what trauma can be and where it can come from and how it can be triggered. And it's like the triggers can be anything, but like ultimately, like the traumas are things that we're all actually sharing.
Right.
And the story around the trauma is unique to the person, but ultimately the same results happen.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the story actually was.
Right. The body's still feeling the trauma.
Exactly. And that's where breath work, somatic work, massage even, or Reiki and yoga can all be places where these emotions and these stored patterns can be released or seen, so that they can be understood and released and worked with, rather than being unconscious and continuing to be, this happens and then I get mad and I hit somebody, or I yell, or I constantly end up getting in car accidents after I get new tires, or I don't know, like
right. Yeah, sometimes we notice patterns happening, but we're purposefully not looking for the reason.
Yeah.
And when we can start to understand, like, what that trigger is, like, why did I just get mad at my dog? Why did I just, like yell at my kids? Whatever it is, where did that come from? Yeah. We can start to find that healing.
Exactly.
And I really echo what you're saying about just finding the right you, right? The purposeful you, the conscious you, to step forward and to be the person that you're aware of, right? There's, for me, it was about 32, right? 32 is when I found that. I was going through relationship to relationship and never really found out who I was as a human being.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty, I wouldn't say dramatic separation, but we were together for a while, and things were looking good. I was an asshole, so clearly it didn't work out. But instead, but that was my catalyst to normally I would go to the bar and deal with it that way. and I just started doing yoga at the time, and so instead of going to the bar, I went to the yoga, and I went to do yoga, and then Tang and I talked about meditation, so I went home, started meditating, and that's how I started finding myself, and finding the person that I was proud to be, so I could show up and be helpful to people if they needed it. And so I really appreciate what you're saying with that is, try to fill your cup before you can start to fill others, get yourself right for service before you can be service to other people.
Right.
Because we can try as hard as we want, but and that doesn't mean you have to be a perfect human being by no means, but just find out who you are.
Yeah. It also doesn't mean like, oh, I don't feel like a whole person and I'm leaning on this other person. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, you have to end your marriage and you like separate from your kids. Like, but what can you do now to, if you're feeling that, to begin to really hold that authenticity within yourself so that you can continue to show up better and better for those people.
Right.
And that doesn't mean those people will join you in that path, but you can be on that path.
Yeah.
And continue to show up better for those people.
Right.
So that was some of the learning from that course.
Because you can, it's your work you're doing on yourself. You can't expect other people to come along on that path with you.
Right.
And that, that goes back to that whole, like, the idea of the inner Buddha in somebody. Like you see the inner Buddha as the true person that they are, not the person you wish them to be, not the Buddha you wish them to be. Like I see a Buddha inside you underneath all that bullshit. It's like, no. You right now as the person that you are, I see the Buddha inside of you as the perfect human being that you are. Right. And just accept them as that. They want to come along on the journey, they can. If not, let them be on their own.
Yep, we're all exactly where we're supposed to be.
Yep. Totally.
So that, along with, like, confidence keeps coming up in this conversation. Like, taking the leap of faith on myself, on the universe, because, the investment was big.
Yeah. I remember you were teetering on that for a while. I'm obviously glad you did it. But.
Yeah. It was a big lesson in trust.
Yeah.
And I continue to work with that. But through that, I'm starting to heal a lot of my financial mind things. What do we call them? Mistaken beliefs around money.
There you go.
My money relationship.
Mind constraints.
So full circle, finishing the full circle story.
Yeah.
I'm in breath camp in Guatemala.
Yes.
Like, made that happen. Like, holy crap, I'm in Guatemala. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
In breath camp with people that I've been online with for 8 months, never met in real life. Now we're in Aura, like, hanging out, smiling, like, free.
Yeah.
And breathing together.
Yeah, so you did 8 months of like Zoom calls and stuff like that, not in-person stuff, and then finally coalesce into this in-person. And I remember you talking about it since it started. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in Guatemala at the end, blah blah blah. I'm like, fucking dope. That sounds great. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, I'm going to Guatemala for 5 weeks. I'm like, holy shit, it's already been 8 months.
It's
like,
happening.
God damn. All right.
Yeah.
And I remember the excitement when you left, man.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Carrying all of that experience with me now. It was really great in Guatemala. People were like, how long have you guys known each other? And I was like, oh, we met online. That's awesome. People got a kick out of that.
That's awesome.
So just to like wrap this part of the story up, coming from my kitchen floor, crying to this song that was sent to me, to the last breath work of this 7 days of breathing together, 7 days of guiding breath, of learning in person assists for breath and how to really help others bring full breath in to this practice of conscious connected breathing specifically. And I'm breathing this final breath work on the Thursday or Friday, final one, and the last song that gets played is that song that was sent to me that had me crying on the floor.
Wow.
And I was laughing so hard, just like breathing and just like, I can't even mimic the laugh.
Yeah.
Because it was just so raw and like innocent and just like, oh my God, a year ago you were listening to this song crying on the floor And now you're listening to this song completely blissed out because you love yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't need to love anybody else.
Uh-huh.
But by loving myself, I am loving everybody else.
Yeah.
And we're all the same. So it's like
I love that.
we're all one. And it makes it so much easier to love
Yeah.
everybody else.
Oh, man.
You know?
I've something I've experienced in my own personal healing is that as I've made benchmarks in my healing, it's like, okay, I feel like I'm getting better about this thing I've been working on. As soon as I build that confidence, I get put back into a situation that makes me go through that motion that I've been working on. And part of it, I believe, is one, to make sure that, hey, here's your trigger. How you doing? Right. And the other is you've now got so many new tools to deal with things in your toolbox. So here's that thing that you used to deal with. Here's all the tools that you've amassed. Go deal with it. Make me proud, right? Mm-hmm. Prove to yourself, build that confidence that you're over this shit or that you're moving past it, right? And I think, like, in that situation, same kind of thing. It's that universe saying, hey, Cam, remember that time you were just crying on the floor? Remember that song? Remember that trigger?
Yeah.
What do you think now?
Yeah.
You're laughing now. Yeah. That's fucking great. Good for you. You're moving past that shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I love that. You know, it's that, and you know, don't feel bad if like that song makes you cry again, whatever. You're still processing, but like it's just the universe checking back in to be like, hey, we got you, man. We're watching you. You're doing good.
Oh, well, that song is definitely a tearjerker, but yeah, 100%. I think it was Kevin Walton, maybe at the Sacred Sons Gathering I was at, maybe on a podcast. The universe will, he says, or he spoke, the universe will always show you where you're not showing up the way you want to. So it'll always give you that opportunity to make that choice. Yeah. Do I show up and do this, or do I show up and do that thing that I always used to do?
Right.
Do I show up in love, or do I show up in my fear of losing somebody, or my lack mentality, or you know? So in that sense, it was like, I guess my lesson was like, oh, my lack mentality says that I can't do this breathwork training because I can't afford the multiple 4 figures that it's asking me to do. But I'm really called to it. And my energy in my body is very uplifting and expansive when I think of it. Okay, I'm going to commit to it. Mm-hmm. It's been like a payment plan and stuff. But through that, it's always shown up. Yeah. And that trust in what my intuition is telling me is continuing to build that. Right. So yeah, it was that opportunity that the universe gave me of like, oh, you want to stay in lack mentality and continue that frustrating job that is totally your not self, and or here's an opportunity that will be a challenge. Right. It'll be hard. It'll be testing your ability to handle money and also to receive, because receiving is a whole game of itself. Like, yeah, it is. Like, I can give really easy, but to actually like receive graciously and be open to receiving it, especially when it comes to money and lack mentality, I'm finding it's like when I'm worried about it, I have to work for it. Right. Worry equals work, bro. Like, that's totally hitting my brain right now. Worry equals work. I love that. Worry equals work, man. Whereas, like, I'm letting go of that need to control. Like, oh, if I do this, I'll get that. Like, no, like, trust my innate abilities, my learned abilities, and trust into the universe or whatever source, God, higher spirit, right, whatever you want to call it. And it literally, I'm watching it happen in my life right now, like unfolding like beautifully, and I get to share all my skills. Yeah, you do. And all the things that I get to learn and continue to learn, and to see the look on my clients' faces and hear their stories, just like, it's so
It's beautiful,
you know,
man.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that trust, trust is something. It's like a muscle we have to strengthen as much as intuition's a muscle we have to
100%.
strengthen. We have to find trust in ourselves. We have to, dip a toe into trust, see how it works out. Don't be discouraged if trust doesn't like work out right away, because you got to trust in trust, right? It doesn't always map out the exact way you want it, but that's kind of like the healing process, right? The healing is going to give you what you need, not what you want. Trust is going to give you what you need, not what you want, right? So you got to figure out what your trust is and find your way to strengthen that muscle. Like with intuition, that's something I'm always trying to work on, is intuition. And intuition is a trust thing as well, right? Because you have to trust your intuition, right? They're all muscles you got to strengthen. And in a lot of the world that we're in, like, we don't really, like news outlets, for example, right now, we don't really know who to trust, because there's so many bashing back and forth. It depends if you're left and right, whatever it is. Like, there's just like not a lot of honest truth that you can just really hang your hat on. So strengthen that muscle. Find your truth. Your truth within yourself, the truth that makes sense to you, and strengthen that muscle, man. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah, the intuitive muscle is something that I've ignored for a long time. And it was hard to put trust in that, and then but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Well, that makes sense, because like 1,000% our culture is telling us not to have intuition. That doesn't exist. You just need to do this.
Yep.
You need to get the job, go to school, go to college, get the job,
start a family,
retire sick and old and
overworked
and body's broken, and maybe you can still go on vacations.
Right.
Maybe not.
Right.
And then watch your kids do the same thing.
Yep.
And I don't know. I don't have kids, but
no,
I just don't feel called to that life anymore.
Yeah.
And,
there's a different path. And I think that's the thing. It's like, consciously live and walk your path. We don't have to have a cookie cutter of like, this is success. Success is self-defined, right?
Yeah.
Success is a subjective term, right? You define success. So like my mom and I got in a conversation, I'd say a heated conversation one time about success. And we were talking about universal basic income, which I know is a hot button issue for a lot of people. And, it's not something I'm fully behind, but I like the idea of it. And we were talking about different ways of funding universal basic income. And one of the ideas that's kicked around is taxing a lot of the social media companies that are making a lot of money off of advertising, and they're free, it's free subscriptions, right? So I get that, but they're taking a lot of our data and they're selling that off and blah, blah, blah. So one of the ideas is to tax back those social media companies, say 1% of their revenue, 1% of like billions of dollars, right? And that comes back and that can be dispersed out through universal basic income, blah, 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 whatever. And so my mom was like, well, what about their shareholders? Are they going to want X percentage of their money taken away? Well, you know what? They're making billions upon billions upon billions of dollars. So they're way over what we would even put a number on as feasible success. Like if you looked at business growth rates and feasible success, social media companies are far surpassing that shit, right? So even if that was a consideration, it's not even a consideration. But if we redefine what success is, why does it have to be 30% profit? Why can't it be 25%? Everybody's still making money, and that money people are making, they're just sitting on anyways. They're not even actually spending it, right? So let's reinvest that money back into the people, right? So there's just different ways to think about shit like that, So yeah, my mom and I got a little heated conversation about that, but it's like, we're defining success. We can redefine it and still be successful, right? It's just what we depend and what we decide on.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man, everything is what we decide on. Fucking money is nothing but the fact that we've all decided that money is something.
Yeah.
Right. It's really nothing. We've just all decided that, yeah, we've agreed that money is something, so we're going to use this as currency.
Right.
It's a decision we've all made.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Man, and I found a really cool way to link this back to breath.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Sorry for that side
What
tangent.
if our currency was that we get to take this next breath? Because right now, what's happening is that success isn't defined by our ability to live.
Right.
It's defined by, like you said, this illusionary idea of dollars. When Like, I'm looking outside this window right now, just thinking, like, there's a spot right near my house that used to be all forest, and now it's a complete dust pit waiting for more condos to be built.
Right.
You know, and yes, people need places to live. I'm not saying that that's bad, but we are in a perpetual state of taking away slowly our actual ability to breathe on this earth.
Yeah.
Like, as the trees go away, eventually our filtration is going away,
Right.
and we're wondering why the world has been the way it's been this last year. And my opinion is very much aligned into how we're treating the earth,
Right.
and in turn how we're treating our bodies.
Yeah.
And hence why I have been listening to my intuition,
Yeah.
telling me yoga, breath work,
Right.
energy healing, sound healing, like these tools that are like ancient wisdoms, and now we're rebirthing them into this context that can connect with the technologies that we have,
Right, yeah.
that can connect with Western medicine for when we need it, but also we have these tools that can help to subside things before they get to the point of needing drugs that create symptoms,
Right.
that create symptoms, that create symptoms, that we keep masking our symptoms.
Yes, we do.
So,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like this last year has been really great for so many to come into themselves.
Yeah.
Like, those who were nearing the path are in it now. Those who were like maybe not even aware are like diving in. Like, some of my clients right now are like, I'm so all in to dive into this work that I've been putting off all my life. I've always felt intuitive. I've always felt
Right.
connected to something more, and now I have a permission slip,
Right.
you know.
We all slowed down enough to finally listen to our internal head.
Yeah,
Just be like,
whatever way things happen, like, people's lives transformed, and now there's, at least, as you said in Katya's previous podcast, at least 1% of us is pulling some energy towards
we're moving it.
this mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an opening for, I think, people to understand that they want to take the journey into finding why they're just chronically unhappy. And that's subjective to the person, but like, there's just, you know, I think we finally, you know, the whole world slowed down, you know, and I have one statement to make. I love how people are like, save the world, save the planet. It's like, the world's gonna be fine. The planet's fine. We're saving humanity. Let's be we need to be realistic. We're being selfish. We need to save humanity. The world will be just fine. It'll regenerate itself. It's just fine. But you know, that now that the world slowed down is the humanity side, you know, we were able to finally not just go to work 70 hours a week and forget about why we're so in so much pain. We're not jumping from job to job to job, you know, and, you know, not to say that it's having to slow down because of COVID didn't cause its own problems for a lot of people. But I think for a lot of people, it gave people the understanding that, okay, I'm slowing down. I'm taking away all this, the things that I mask all of my stressors with, the things that I don't show up to face in front because I hide behind, you know, whatever thing it is, what it's like, over sports, over like, fuck, for me, it was over yoga. Like, I was doing like 12 classes a week, you know, plus teaching 10. Right. You know, so, you know, having that ability to slow down and really just look at yourself and what was going on and be like, oh shit, man, I need some help. Yeah. You know, and so, you know, thankfully, you know, I'm in a position to where I'm able to offer some help for people, hold space 100%. For people to do that. But, you know, having myself understand that I need that, you know, I came to you for a couple sessions, you know, and you helped me through some things. And, you know, so I think it's really, you know, taking the time that you need to listen to that voice inside of you, to that saying like, hey man, like, ego aside, we need some help, man. We're broken. Yeah. We've done some things in our life that we're not proud of. We've been a part of some things that we don't understand. I'm ready to fucking get through this shit, you know? So with, one of the things with breath work and somatic healing and the stuff that we can do to ourselves to find our own healing, which is, you know, to me, it's very obvious, but I know it's not to everybody. But, you know, I still come across people that, you know, will say, hey, this is what's going on with me. All right, cool. All right, so here's a after I listen to them. Okay, so here's a breath thing that you can do that could help you out. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, why not? Because I've taken a pill for that. Okay, cool. Well, here's something you don't need a prescription for. You don't need anything but your own personal time. There's no side effects that are bad.
Yeah.
This is just you and your breath. Here you go. No, I don't want to do that. So like I still get a lot of pushback from stuff like that. The things that we can do to ourselves to heal ourselves. And I'm not asking to how to cure that mentality, but like how do you meet that in a way that is approachable for somebody that is that stubborn as to like, no, just Western medicine. I just want to take pills and just deal with the side effects. Or is that even a thing
At this point, most likely they haven't reached out to me.
that makes sense? Okay.
I'm so little history. I used to be involved in Young Life, which
Okay.
is a Christian fundamentalist organization for the youth. And in all honesty, in junior high when I was involved, it was because the cute girls went.
That's fair. Yep.
And so why not?
Yeah.
I just have to like learn about God. God's pretty cool in my opinion. Like whatever. Like, and within that, I always felt really conflicted by trying to push the idea
Okay.
of God on other people. Believe this, yeah. Hey, come to this thing. We're gonna like play in like a bouncy tent and hear some rock music being played and hear some stuff about God. Yeah. Cool. Inviting to that felt a little bit better. So that's, I guess, more of what I kind of lead with is I have an open invitation to work with anybody if they're called to work with me, if they're called to work with their breath, if they're called to do the work, if they're called to, okay, none of the work that I'm offering is super easy. Like if you want a Reiki session, beautiful, I can do that and you can just chill. But getting there and being still can be a challenge for people, right? Yeah. So I won't say any of it's easy.
Yeah.
With that, like, so there's an open invitation that you also relay out to people. And if they're called to, they'll contact me and they'll be ready.
Yeah.
So I want to lead by example in as many ways as I possibly can. So that's where I've kind of found a liking for social media and like sharing my story and like being like, hey, I live my life like this, and that could be of interest to you. That could not be.
Yeah.
If somebody asks me about breathwork, I'll tell them, and I won't be like, this is going to change your life. You need to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, shoot, you're suffering from stress. Well, try this breath practice out. Or you're,
Yeah, just dropping little nuggets of knowledge here and there.
Exactly. You feel really disconnected from everybody. Oh, well, there's a breath practice for that. It's called the coherence breath.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything.
Yeah.
Is basically it. And it's very experiential for me, what I've experienced and embodied to be sharing with others. And maybe they'll have a similar or different experience, but it'll be an experience either way.
Right.
And it could be the experience where they are choosing to continue to take pills for things that they actually don't need to.
Right.
If they put in a little bit of effort. Like, I won't have a beer belly if I don't drink beer and do core workouts.
Right.
Like, that won't happen. But I have to do the work, which is resist drinking alcohol and do the freaking crunches, right?
Yeah.
So some things take more works, but I feel like the benefits of doing the work is actually outweighing, in my experience, the easy way out.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, take that pill and have these other 3 effects, which then lead to needing 3 more pills. Which, Yeah.
So I think, in my opinion, it kind of just goes back to a conscious state of living, right? You're consciously living. You're consciously aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. Like it's funny. My kids give me a lot of shit about. We make our own house cleaners, right? It's essential oil-based cleaners and stuff like that. And so, like, for example, we have a degreaser that is made from essential oils. You spray it on. It's got to set for a little bit, so it can activate, and then you wipe it up. Not a big deal, but it does. It's not instant clean like 409 or whatever it is, right? And so my kids are like, why do we have to let it set? Why do we let it agitate? Why is it not foaming? It's like, okay, well, check it out, right? So not everything is instant, right? This product, right? Let's say that's 409. Yes, it's instant. You spray it on, it'll dissolve it. You don't even have to wipe it off, right? But that's going to get into our water system, which is going to make it very difficult for us to separate those chemicals out of our water system, right? And so if I just put this chemical aside, make my own essential oil based cleaners that are very water soluble, use that, wait a minute, use a little elbow grease, take the time to consciously look at that stain and get it out, and then it goes into the water. It's really easily to separate that out, right? It's not a chemical. I've taken a little bit more time with my life to consciously take care of this mess I've personally made, right? Let's say it's like coffee I spilled or something. Instead of just like spraying this chemical on it, wiping it away, and then just calling it good, and then just letting that pollute our water system, right? So, and I think that's like an analogy for a lot of just the life, right? We see a thing, we want instant gratification from that thing or because of that thing, and so we take the pill, we do the line, we do whatever the drug is or whatever it is, right? And then we feel the thing, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't always have to be quick and instantaneous. Like, it's work because it's fucking work, right? And it's work because like we've done a lot of damage to ourselves, whether we realize it or not, whether we've intended to or not. Mm-hmm. And to undo that work isn't always like a snap of the finger. It's not an instant realization. It's not like a momentary, like just thing that just happens and you just get clarity, right? It's not samadhi, right? It's work you have to do because the work shows that you're consciously putting in the effort to undo the thing you unconsciously did in the first place.
That's where cold plunges or breath work
right.
is like, stop whatever that process is that's happening.
Yeah.
So when I was quitting cigarettes, it was jump in the shower right now. Like I'm having a really, or call you.
Yeah.
I'm having a really strong like tunnel vision, wanting a cigarette. Shower. Clothes on, doesn't matter, like shower.
Really?
Like,
okay, cool, man.
as soon as possible, get in that shower.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's like easy access. But mental habit break. So like, breath work. I'm going to now take even 30 seconds to like breathe really deeply and recharge my energy because or process some energy out of me. So, this is happening and I'm frustrated and I can take a transformational breath to calm, or like I really need to move this anger. Like let's maybe use breath of fire and build that energy, and then do some holds at the end, and let it all kind of subside. Because while we charge the body up with the breath, we're connecting esoterically. We're connecting to the life force energy. Oxygen, right? Which is connecting us to the trees, which is connecting us to our brothers and sisters who are all breathing, and every living being is connected through that breath.
Ubuntu, man.
Yeah. So we get the opportunity so easily to stop whatever that is in the tracks and go, I can slow down for the moment. Take some breaths, whether it's whatever breath work or cold plunge or, do I really need to use this chemical to clean this? Because I know it's affecting the trees that are helping me breathe outside.
Right.
Or the algae in the ocean. Should I wear this sunscreen because it's convenient at this store right next to the beach? Or I know that there's that place that sells like really safe sunscreen up the road, but I forgot to get it on the way down to the beach. And it's like another 10 minutes or I have to get in the car, but it's helping the oceans to not die.
Yep. Conscious living.
We continue to be able to breathe because the algae in the ocean and the trees are able to continue to thrive.
Yep. We've become so convenienced that everything that isn't right next to us seems like an inconvenience. And so it's like, why not? Why? Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to, okay, I could put peppermint oil down to get rid of these ants and they could just safely go away. Or I could put Ajax down and it's going to like chemically kill them. And not only that, but they're going to carry all this chemical back through the yard, back to their ant farm, and then, kill all the bunch of shit on the way there. Right. It's like, man, like, why are we so egotistical about this shit, Oh man. But,
read Braiding Sweetgrass.
Yeah, that's a great book. Jessica, big shout out Jessica. She had me reading that. I when I was doing yin and story time for a little while.
Oh yeah,
I
was
had
thinking about bringing it to mine.
Yeah. Oh man, I did a couple of stories out of Braiding Sweetgrass. That was great. But so back to Guatemala. So one of my favorite things about your trip in Guatemala was your plant medicine experience. And it's funny because it's, synchronicity. It just happens in beautiful ways. And a friend of mine, Hannah, who I had on the podcast not too long ago, introduced me to Hape. The idea of Hape. I'd heard about it beforehand in a bunch of different podcasts and just, ceremonial stuff that I've worked with. But I never experienced it myself. And I'd always, known it to be a part of an ayahuasca ceremony. And so I originally didn't know it could be used on its own. I was always thought it was part of ceremony. And then so when Hannah started bringing it up, and it's like, okay, that's interesting. And she talked to me about her experience with it. And it definitely piqued my interest. I love plant medicines. They work really well with my body. And then so I ordered some and I was like, I can't wait to share this with Camo. I'm so excited. And in back of my mind somewhere, I'm like, he's in Guatemala. I'm guaranteed that motherfucker is going to be doing some Hape or some kind of plant medicines and stuff. And so I was not really surprised when you came back and you had Hape. And I was like, oh, fucking awesome, man. This is great. I would love the experience of this with you. So that was, I've had a beautiful experience with Hape so far, with others and with myself. But you also experienced some different plant medicines that I'm not super familiar with. Would you mind talking about those a little bit?
Yeah, I can talk about that process a bit. Long story short, trust and surrender.
Yeah. Amen.
So,
Amen.
like I was mentioning, that I was getting to know these people through this course for 8 months, and then we were all going to Guatemala to be in this kind of graduation. And a few of us decided to travel together and go see Guatemala. And somebody had asked, if anybody knows plant medicine ceremonies happening there, we should totally do that. And I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Not really super interested to seek it out. Always been interested in specifically the plant medicine ayahuasca, which is a grandmother vine, very psychedelic and can be very life-changing.
Yeah.
I'll go into a little bit about that, but mostly I think the biggest learning that I took from the entire experience was, again, trust and surrender, because once we got to Guatemala, we were in Antigua. I met up with a friend who I had known from living in Hawaii, and she was like, oh, I'm going to an ayahuasca ceremony this Saturday, and they're here for 3 weeks. Are you still in town? And yeah, we actually are still in Guatemala during that time.
Yeah.
And then another friend of mine from Panama, both of them were connected, was going to be there too. And okay, so there's 2 people plus all of us are here, and they're offering ceremony, and then we get to our breath camp graduation week retreat, and our facilitator, our teacher over the last 9 months at that point, she was also going to be at the ceremony that we were considering going to.
Oh, nice.
So it was I guess it's one of those moments that the universe is going, you have this opportunity. You can take it. Yeah. You don't have to, but you could. And so the 4 of us decided that we would sit with the 2 shamans that were going to be there. And it was quite an experience. So the plant medicine specifically that we worked with was sananga, which is a root that's ground up and it becomes eye medicine.
Right.
So it's eye drops. And then rape or hape, which is the ground tobacco and different plant ashes. That one gets blown up the nose.
Each nostril, yeah.
Each nostril. There are applicators that you can self-medicate consciously, ceremonially preferred, because it's tobacco, it is addictive.
Yeah.
So I get to be extra conscious with my history.
So you don't have to take cold showers with your clothes on anymore.
Yeah. Preferably not with the clothes on. Preferably with the clothes off on an alpine lake up in the mountains. By choice, not by needing to stop a habit. And then Nishipa, as they call it, but ayahuasca. And that's a vine and a leaf ground and boiled to create this thick licoricey tasting syrup. Plant medicine isn't for everybody. If you're called to it, it'll show up for you when it's necessary or when it's time for you. You can seek it out. There's lots of retreat centers for ayahuasca specifically. So those were the three that were at that ceremony with the shamans from Brazil. And fuck, dude, they had full headdresses and face paint, and it was truly an epic experience. To go into just a little bit about it, there is a purge effect from ayahuasca, sometimes from hape, depending on the dosage. Later in Mexico, when I went to an actual just hape ceremony, I did have a purge, which was actually really powerful.
And purging can be sweating, it can be throwing up, it can be crying, it can be a lot of different things.
A whole lot of things. Yeah. This was
just getting energy out.
Puking,
yeah.
Yeah, so back to the ayahuasca ceremony. Beautiful experience of an indigenous Brazilian tribe's culture, and that was their intention for being there.
Cool.
So I had a very eye-opening, went through the veil experience on the first night. And then the second night was their last night in Guatemala, and they kind of ran low on the ayahuasca. So we all had very gentle experiences where, like I was saying earlier, the universe will always show you where you're not showing up the way you want to.
Right.
I had a lot of judgments, a lot of anger and frustration that I wasn't having this profound, deep experience where this goddess or this plant was showing me the light of the universe.
Right.
It was very much like, oh, I'm angry and frustrated and in judgment. This is not what I experienced last night. How do I find peace in this?
Right,
so it was exactly what I needed. Showed me exactly what I needed to work on. Like, okay, this is next. Cool.
Yeah.
I also got to sit with the Kula Collective, which is a yoga teacher training, shamanic training group based in Central America, a couple in Costa Rica, some in Canada. Like, they're kind of all over. And we went to do a cacao ceremony, sananga ceremony, and rape ceremony. So cacao is a medicine that I'm starting to work more with, which is you can find it distributed at Whole Foods. I'll be distributing it soon. And it's a heart-opening, activating medicine when it's still pure.
Yeah.
So the cacao medicine that I'll be receiving is from Oaxaca, and it's like hand ground into the paste and never boiled, never dried, to this state that like you can get powders here.
Right.
And for better or for worse, but I definitely know that a lot of the healing aspects and energetic activating parts of cacao get lost when they've been over processed. So yeah, anti-inflammatory is one of the big ones, and general like energy boosting, but from like a heart coherence space, is something I want to preserve.
Yeah.
And what the company that I'll be working with preserves. So more on that on the next podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then so that's a drink, and it's done ceremonially honoring the whole process and the ancestors that brought us that medicine, to where it's like in our hands and we're drinking it. Lots of intention behind those ceremonies that you and I will be doing one soon. Probably links in bios soon.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And then Sananga is an interesting one. So
Yeah, Sananga I haven't tried yet. That's
I have some that you can try.
Yeah.
It's a very intense sensation to the eyes. So it's a single drop in each eye. The way the shaman described it is like, come to the front of your mat, sit, tilt your head back, open your eyes. I'm going to do one drop and then another. Blink your eyes a couple times, and then open your eyes to see the light of Sananga. And for about 5 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, you can't open your eyes, bro. That shit burns. Yeah. It hurts so bad. Like, why would I do this to myself?
Right.
It is said to clean the pineal gland.
Right.
So the main one, clean the pineal gland. Very brings you into the present, because when you're in that much sensation, there's like no place else I could have been.
Right.
I'm in my eyes. I'm feeling my eyes 100 and something percent.
Yeah.
And then through all of that pain and whatever comes up, I was like bawling, especially the second night of the ayahuasca ceremony. Through that cleansing, kind of like a purge, it removes the negative energies. So kind of like so they also use tobacco, like rape, or like the smoke to remove negative spirits.
Okay.
Energies like this removes them from within you, so that when you go into ceremony, I think especially with a psychedelic or plant medicine such as psilocybin or ayahuasca, that you're a little bit more pure and cleansed.
Right.
There is a whole diet for these medicines, or specifically ayahuasca. So be sure if you go to follow that, because it's like a part of the culture, you know. You're like, it's not a part of our culture.
Right.
It's somebody else's culture that's being shared, whether it's through somebody who's from our culture or not. There's a reason behind why they diet in a certain way, and why you shouldn't eat meat, and why you shouldn't be doing these other drugs, and why you actually have to abstain from sex and really keep your energies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love, one of the things I do appreciate about plant medicines that I'm finding is that they're not clean. They're kind of dirty. You know, there's a lot involved in it. It's literally, it's not taking a pill. It's not, smoking a pipe. It's not, it's like you're purging, you're doing work. Like there's shit happening. You're sweating, you're crying sometimes. Like the work is like, it's in the medicine. Like the outcome is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But like the medicine is working itself. Right. And I think that's, again, like that goes back to the whole cleaning analogy I made earlier. It's like, it's nasty work that we got to this place. We might not remember how shitty that stuff was, what we did and we experienced, but to get to that place, it's going to get fucking dirty coming out too. Right. And I remember I had a friend going through detox one time, and the person that was helping them detox said, how long you been using this stuff, while they're, shaking on the couch, sweating, pooping themselves and stuff. It's like, how long you been on this stuff? 2 years. Okay. So expect it to be 2 years before you get your shit right. You're on the journey.
Yeah.
Don't run away from it. Embrace it and walk forward, and I think that's one of the things with plant medicines. It's not going to be this gentle, like, hey, here's a nice little cozy, like, gonna let you, no, hey, I'm going to beat you up a little bit, going to get that shit loose. Then you'll probably have some fun stuff down the road. But like right now, it's going to be kind of shitty.
Okay. I didn't mention this other one.
Yeah.
So on Sunday morning, after being up all night Saturday, which was the second night of the ayahuasca ceremony, they offered Combo, which is I forget what kind of frog, tree frog from the jungle, bright green one.
Right.
And it's an enzyme that's excreted by this frog that then through the gates is applied to the human body, which causes a purging effect one way or the other. Right. Not everybody has a physical like purge. Again, it can also be crying or whatever. But the gates are little burns into the skin, and then the enzymes applied to it as it dries. Our body soaks that up, which in roughly 10 to 20 minutes causes a purging effect. My experience was really clean in the sense that like smooth.
Okay.
Like it wasn't hard to purge. It was like, okay, I'm puking out like really gnarly bile, like deep yellow goop after drinking like almost 2 gallons of water and then having the medicine applied. So it's like an opposite colonics in a sense.
Interesting.
And then from that work of purifying my internal, I feel like a strength did come from that. Later that day, I like danced for 6 hours at a cacao ceremony, and it was beautiful. Nice. And then 3 days later, I hiked for 16 hours up 2 volcanoes, Acatenango and Fuego, and I was just like, there. Vipassana helped me, breathwork helped me, and like, all of the work that I've done for my body, and being clean without really like harmful substances like alcohol and cocaine, which were habits of the past for me.
Right.
Yeah, I was like head of the pack hiking up with 18 kilos on my pack.
Oh, shit. Wow.
It was like, I don't know. I'm putting a little bit of that with the combo, like helped give me that strength to like really just go and be, powerful.
You cleared out all that shit that didn't need to be there anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, allowed you to show up the way you wanted to.
That was a cool concept around the purge part of working with these medicines, because yes, it is dirty, and like I puked in a rape ceremony, and I puked from ayahuasca, and I puked from combo, and this was all within weeks of each other, and all in essence chosen by me to experience. But each time, like with the ayahuasca, I was experiencing a lot of my father wounds coming up, and I was crying and open to like receiving these messages and trusting the medicine, and the songs of the shamans that were being sung were singing the medicine through me. And as I started to release some of these holdings against my father and the different father figures in my life, and the idea that I need a father, when I can just father myself,
right.
Really like allowed the purge to happen, which then led to the veil being lifted from this realm to the next, is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
But in that, like looking and honoring what came out of me, what I let go of literally out of my body, like, ugh.
Yeah.
And like looking at it and going, thank you for being a part of my life.
Yes.
And like, you're no longer necessary in my life. And physically taking it out to the banana tree and dumping it out back into nature to be dissolved into the rest of everything. It was like, that's a beautiful experience. And like,
that's really cool.
Yeah, don't go like puke yourself and do this or anything, but like, what do you need to let go of?
Yeah.
And you know what that is somewhere within you. Like there's something you're holding on to that can be released.
Yeah.
And will you be better for it? Most likely.
Yeah.
And then honor that. Like thank yourself for getting you to here. Thank whatever that was that needs to be let go of, and then proceed without it.
Right.
And know that it might show back up. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You know how to deal with it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of the times we beat ourselves up for the thing we've just let go. Like, how did that get there in the first place? Doesn't matter. You let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
No need
That's
for
not part of your
guilt and
story
shame.
anymore.
Guilt and shame has nothing to do with love.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely, man. So, just to reiterate, and Cam mentioned this earlier, plant medicines are not for everybody. We're not advocating go out and do all the plant medicines, but if they're something you're called to, then, if it's something that you can do and you want to maybe learn more about, you can reach out to one of us. But it's an option that's out there, right? And it's a beautiful option, and it's slowly becoming more readily available, and I think one of the things that, we take cannabis I personally can say that I take cannabis for granted a lot as being a plant medicine. Mm-hmm. It's more of a daily use, and I'm not very ceremonial around my cannabis use. But for all the other plant medicines that I do ingest, there is very much ceremony around it and very much an intention around it. And I'm trying to get better about my cannabis usage and trying to make more conscious decisions about when and why I use. But with psilocybin, with hape now, with cacao, things like that, it's not like I'm just gonna wake up in the morning and make myself a fresh cup of cacao and sit down and read my book. It's like, nah, man, I'm gonna get into myself and meditate and like think about what's going on in life. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I'm going with these plant medicines. So. But I think, I would love to see if you want to walk us through maybe a little breath work, man.
A little breath work.
Yeah, as we start to wrap things up here a little bit.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the time for this one. Yeah, so if you're driving, definitely pause this and come back to it when you can be in a comfortable space in your home, as there can be some effects that would affect your driving. That's my waiver.
Yeah.
Be in a comfortable space in your home, whether it's seated or lying down. And I think I'm called to the heart coherence breath, which is fairly simple. And then, because if you'd like to work with me with breath, we can go into more of the conscious connected breath work, and you can follow me on Instagram, and we'll give you all that later. But the heart coherence breath will just take a couple minutes to tune into self. This breath is also like similar to cacao, a heart opener, and it really brings us into coherence with each other. However far away we are. This works on Zoom rooms. I've seen beautiful experiences of people just really connecting energetically through this breath from across the world. And so it's really simple. It's a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale. However those want to come. I usually do an in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then I think we'll actually do a little bit of conscious connected breath just to like amp up the energy a little bit. So taking a moment to guide you through that. I guide it from more of the rebirthing tradition, which is an open mouth inhale that's active, and then a soft passive exhale. If you do have epilepsy, suffer from seizures, any glaucoma or retina issues, as well as heart or lung ailments, I recommend that you just do a connected breath through the nose, or even just listen to the sound of my voice and just breathe your natural breath. Again, I recommend this as a conscious connected breath. That's what we're working in. So the inhale connects to the exhale. So there's no pauses, like an ocean wave goes in and out. The ocean never stops sending waves to the beach, right?
Right.
So We'll do a few rounds of the coherence breath really coming into our heart. Then I'll guide a few minutes of the conscious connected breath. Usually I guide it with music, but we'll just do this for a little bit. And then I'm going to highly recommend that you take 5 to 10 minutes to journal. And if you feel like reaching out to us with your journal, entry, your writing, your drawing, whatever, we would love to see that, because I just love creative minds, and we all have such a divine creative force within us.
Definitely.
So now that you're in your comfortable space, because that was a really long jam on words, I'm sure you're home by now. Yeah, just find a comfortable seat. We'll do this seated. And allow the eyes to soften, to close, and just allow your mind to focus on your breath, like we do at the beginning of yoga classes. Just watch the inhale and exhale as they happen naturally, without forcing anything to be. Feel your body, how it's resting on the earth. Feel your muscles, how they're resting on the bones. Feel the air, how it's resting on your skin. And now feel the air as it comes in through the nose and out through the mouth. I'll begin counting. So find an exhale completely, removing all the air from the body. And 5-second inhale beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling through the mouth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. 1, 2, 5. Exhale. 4, 3, 1. Inhale. 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 1. Inhale. 1. Exhale. 4, 3. Inhale. Exhale. 3 more rounds. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Soft exhale. Allow the mouth to remain open. And begin breathing in through the mouth. And soft exhales out of the mouth. As you breathe in through the mouth, fill up the whole torso. So fill up your whole diaphragm. Breathe the belly wide and all the way up to your heart. And when you exhale, soften all of the muscles of the body. If you end up lying down, awesome. Keep the throat open, keep the mouth open, and breathe in and out. Just like 90 seconds of this. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Continue at your pace, in through the mouth, out through the mouth, filling your whole body, your whole vessel. Feeling any tingling that might come up, any strong sensation or resistances that might be there, maybe a tightness in the hands or jaw. Can the exhales relax all of that tension while the inhale continues to activate? And while we're doing this, we're telling the sympathetic nervous system to be aware. And we're telling the parasympathetic nervous system to also be online and continue to be soft and receiving. As you inhale, sympathetic nervous system. As you exhale, parasympathetic nervous system. Inhaling, activate. Exhale, soften, surrender. 30 more seconds. Go at your own pace. In through the mouth. Out through the mouth. Maybe sounds come up. Maybe an emotion wants to come up. If you don't feel ready for that, you're always welcome to contact me. One more full big breath in. And just let it all go. And find a soft breath through the nose once more. Our nose, our nostril breath is our deactivator. It's like our brake pedal, but not like a step on the brake. More like we're taking our foot off of the gas, letting ourselves coast as we slow, and then the stop can be nice and easy. Take a few moments to really feel how your body is now. What is the quality there? What's the quality in the breath as you allow the body to be breathed? And how is the quality in your mind after just a few minutes of consciously breathing? And thank you for going on a little mini journey with me. Would love to go on full journeys with all of you. And I welcome Adam back. How's that for you, bro?
That was beautiful, man. Thank you so much. It's been a while since I've had a guided breath work.
And that was like 3 minutes.
I'm still, man. 3 minutes was great. It felt great. And it's beautiful because I have a Reiki client after this meeting, or this interview. So it's nice to kind of switch gears and and go from that external extroverted, let's just have a conversation and talk, to let me hold space for you while we journey together in this healing. So thank you, man. That was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Pleasure.
Well, so I think we'll wrap things up there. But so lots of notes in the show notes today. There'll be a lot of links. So whenever you get to the after this podcast, if you want to dive into some of the stuff Camo talked about, some of the books he referenced, we'll have that in the show notes. But if you are called, man, Cam is one of the best Reiki practitioners, breathwork practitioners, just human beings to hold space. If you're called to do some of this work, please reach out to Cam. He's really gifted at what he does, and is really, really an amazing human being. So please reach out. And again, if it's not Cam, if it's not me, find your healing. You don't have to find your healer, but find your healing. Yeah, we all have the ability to heal ourselves. Sometimes it takes some guidance. Sometimes we can find it, but find the person that can help you out on your journey. You got two of them talking to you right now. Reach out to us if we can be of any help. But yeah. Much love.
100%, man. To just like piggyback on that for
Please.
Just a second.
Yep.
I know we don't have that much time left. You are your own healer.
Yes.
I'm, at least speaking for me, I'm here to help facilitate you into your healing. And you're the one who does the work. You're the one who takes the tools that are offered, whether it's from beautiful Adam, beautiful Monica, beautiful me, whoever it is that's being an aid to you, wherever you're finding your healing. Like, that's you being on your path. And walk it, Don't just talk it, walk it.
Yes.
So
embrace that path.
yeah. Can I give him like my email?
Yeah,
and stuff?
yeah, hit him up.
Yeah, so you can reach out at Instagram at camo.lionheart or email me info at camo, C-A-M-O dash lionheart, just like it sounds, .com. So info at camolionheart.com is my email. I have links in my Instagram bio to book consultations with me. And yeah, look
Beautiful
forward
stuff.
to hearing from you all. And yeah, look forward to our next conversation, brother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, much love, brother.
Yeah, man.
Later.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. Love talking with Camo. Love the information he's got. If you want to connect with Cam or check out any of the information that we talked about, you can hit up the show notes for links. And please subscribe to the podcast if you're liking it and share it with your friends. Get the community built. And thank you again. Obeisance and love to you all. And see you next time.